This is GBIRL, the podcast all about the people and personalities in the business of esports, gaming, and streaming. Here is your host, Bill the Conqueror.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. And in this quarantine lockdown time, there's a lot of opportunities to stream, to be more involved online, to expand your online presence. And one of the awesome tools to expand your online reach is good graphics, having good graphics. And I was scrolling through Twitter and I found this artist, and you see him right there on the screen right there. His name is Jason. And we got into a short little conversation about what it means to be an artist online, how to spot the bad stuff, how to spot the good stuff. And we got into a really good conversation about other things. So I thought I would have him on the podcast today to talk about things from his perspective. He is an accomplished artist. He does a lot of things for a lot of people. And the great part is he gets paid for it. So we're going to talk about that. So Jason, go ahead and introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Well, my name is Jason, but online I'm known as SaltyCat, and I do graphic design for Twitch and Mixer, and well, mainly, pretty much over any kind of streaming service. I'm a full service stream designer, meaning I can pretty much will do everything. I'm not too much of an illustrator. I do a little bit of it here and there, but yeah, I basically do everything that you would need for your Twitch Mixer page, any animations, scenes, anything like that. That's pretty much where I dabble. And I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and it's been very lucrative, especially now with the streaming boom that just happened not that long ago.
Right.
So we've all been very busy, and I belong to a pretty good network of other designers and artists.
Right.
So yeah, it's a very popular thing right now. So, but with popularity also comes its troubles. So.
Right. And that was what you put out on Twitter last week. Is that you want to get a group of artists together and talk about how to spot the good art and the bad art, because it seems like where, like you just said, where there's opportunity, there's also people who want to make as much money as fast as possible, and so they put as little effort into the actual work itself. And for somebody like you who has a well-trained eye, those sorts of things can be spotted right away, right?
Yeah, there's tools that we use as designers. To preface all that, like between designers, it's not really a competition. Like, we don't have competition with other designers. It's not like we're actively trying to go out of our way to shame other artists or shame other designers so that we end up getting work. What we care more about is that the clients that are out there that are potential clients don't get scammed or don't get, they don't get hurt because of it, because we see that a lot. We see a lot of people who get scammed. We see a lot of people who end up losing money or end up getting art that isn't theirs. And, 6 months from now, somebody will come by and say, hey, that's somebody else's art. And then by that time, it's too late to get your money back or recoup your losses. So the idea that I had come up with was, yes, we are going to have a stream where it's going to be a roundtable discussion with a bunch of other designers and artists and kind of sharing experiences, what we look for, how we deal with these problems, kind of an educational stream of how to deal with the questions to ask a graphic designer so that they're legitimate, how to do your homework on their art, their portfolio, stuff like that. And that's pretty much what we're going to be going with. But we've been seeing it a lot lately, especially because everybody's home, everybody's streaming, and everybody wants art. So scammers are taking advantage of that. And people who are excited to start streaming and excited to get new art, they don't do their homework properly, and they end up getting scammed in the end.
Okay, so let's take this from the beginning and take it from the perspective of me. I'm a fairly new streamer, and I want to get myself off the ground as fast as possible. And it seems like there's websites out there like Fiverr.com. There's also people constantly running around Twitter and LinkedIn throwing out thousands of DMs at the wall to see if something sticks. What are some things to spot on that? And just, I'm not talking about the actual art itself yet. I'm talking about from the first contact of an artist. You know what I'm saying?
So what we always suggest to people is the first thing you want to do is when you're looking for art, you set your budget and then you start looking through portfolios. If an artist does not have an online portfolio, be very cautious right away.
Okay.
Right away.
Okay. So okay, go ahead.
Because I was going to say, people who are proud of their designs and their clients will show it off. You know what I mean? Like designers that are proud of what they've accomplished, they will want to show it off somewhere to give examples for future clients. So it doesn't even have to be a fully fledged, like, professional portfolio. Just a place, whether it be an Instagram or like a Wix website or a Weebly website that's free, just somewhere like I use a free website for mine, just somewhere where the people can go and view your art. I mean, you wouldn't go and buy, food without going and checking it, knowing what it is first. You wouldn't go in there blindly. So you want to do your homework right away. So the first thing you want to do is, after you set your budget of how much you're willing to spend, you want to start looking around at portfolios. And then when you're doing that, you want to find a designer that fits your style. There's a lot of different styles of artwork out there, and you want to find something that fits your style. So when you're looking through these portfolios, if you want something that's more, let's say, anime inspired, or something that's a little more what we call the esports style, the more sporty style artwork, find an artist that fits that. If you're finding a lot of artists that have a bunch of different kinds of styles in their portfolio, it's not all the time, but most of the time, they're probably going to be scamming you, because usually an artist sticks with a consistent style. And that's what makes it easier for them to find you. You know what I mean? So if you have a consistent style, people will hunt that down because they want that one style. If you have 30 different styles, it's a little more suspect.
Right. Okay. So I think it's important right there to do a fast recap. So the first thing that you said is make sure actually three things. First, make sure to set your budget. If that's $100, if that's $200, if it's whatever that amount is, make sure to set your budget. 2, make sure that you're looking at portfolios. Make sure the artist has a specific site, whether it's a free site or an awesomely designed one of their own. So I have some friends that are in the UI UX space, and they use a Behance all the time for their stuff. So make sure that they have a site. And then 3 is make sure they have a consistent style. What is their style? Because not every artist is for every person. So those 3 things right there are huge indicators right off the bat, right?
Yeah, and like I said from the very beginning, make sure that they have a portfolio. Not look through theirs, yes, but make sure they even have one. A really quick trick, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, about how to actually discover what stolen art is.
Okay.
Is if a graphic designer is trying to sell themselves as being a graphic designer, but their logo themselves is stolen or is a copy of something, be careful. You know what I mean? Because if you're trying to sell graphic design, but you can't even design your own,
right,
you're going to have a hard time trying to sell it,
Okay, so I guess as sort of a check to that, how good... So if you took an artist's logo, and this just came to me, and I could be totally wrong, so if I'm totally wrong, just let me know. Would it be possible to take an artist's logo and put it into Google image search and see what else is out there?
Yes. We do that all the time, actually. It's one of the easiest ways to spot any kind of stolen art. Google reverse image search is probably one of the handiest tools if you ever want to know. When I go on Twitter and I look at because I go to Twitter a lot to see where the market's going. Like, what are people charging? Kind of, feel out the market, and I'll adjust accordingly if I need to. If I'm seeing a lot of really, really cheap art and it's only like, it's $20 for a logo, or $20 for like a whole package or something, and $5 for a logo, that's going to be suspect to me. Graphic designers charge like anybody else. A serious graphic designer would charge like anybody else would. I mean, you're going to charge by the hour, or you're going to, if it's for branding, you're going to be charging a fair amount for it, because this is going to bring the client money in later. So if you're seeing $1 for a logo, or you're seeing $5 for a logo, that's pretty cheap.
Okay, so in that vein, I have seen artists, and I'm not sure how good, great, or bad they are, say in ads sometimes, hey, I'll make your logo for $10 to $20, and you only get instead of multiple revisions. Like if you pay somebody $250 for a logo, $300, $500 for a logo, usually there's a lot of conversation in the color scheme and the design and the font and the images that go into it. But I've seen ads where people say, "I'll make your logo for $20 and you only get one revision." So is that sort of like an entry point?
It can be. Every artist is going to charge what they charge, and they have their own terms of service as far as edits or as far as alterations or whatever they're going to do. I have my own, and it really depends. It's not to say that everybody who charges $20 for a logo is technically trying to scam you, because some people just are on the lower end, which is fine. Maybe their logos aren't really all that elaborate or whatever, and they'll set their price that way. It varies artist to artist, and the easiest way to say this is if you contact a designer and you say, okay, I'm interested in a Twitch package, first you ask for their portfolio. When they show you the portfolio, you do a little bit of research to see if any of the art is inconsistent. You can take any one of those images that you see, no matter what it is, and you can reverse image search it and then put it into Google, and it'll tell you if it's legitimate or not. If it comes out with no results, and which either means it's been altered so much that it can't recognize it anymore, which you're still kind of dancing on a gray area. But it really just varies from artist to artist on how they want to handle that. Usually, yes, you're going to have a very in-depth conversation with a designer. You're going to talk about a lot of things. I mean, a lot of times I get on a call with them, we sit and talk for an hour, and I take notes about what they want. I show them updates as I go. In fact, that's actually what I'm doing right after this podcast. I'm going to be doing a design package for somebody that I've been talking to a lot lately. It's usually very thorough. It's never just like, I want a skull, or I want, we're going to look for color scheme, we're going to look for depth, we're going to look for, how many pieces do you need, and all this other stuff. Right. But it really does vary artist to artist as far as what they want to, how they want to handle their terms of service about edits or about revisions and stuff like that. If they don't offer revisions, you might want to question that, because that means it's going to be like, here it is, this is what I made for you, give me your money. Okay, thanks, we're done.
Okay, got it. Okay, so you've done your due diligence. You've set your budget. You've researched. You've looked at portfolios. You've taken the images, the example images that you've been given, and done the reverse searches. So after you've done that, what's next?
So once you get, you find an artist that you like, and you can tell in the conversation how serious they're going to be about it. If they're very short with what the questions they ask and everything, and they're not really all that thorough about it, it's not saying that they're bad. Maybe they're just that good at it that they don't really need a lot of introduction. But the artist is really going to want to talk to you and really get exactly what you want out of it, because I don't want to do a bunch of revisions if I don't have to.
Right, exactly.
So I'm gonna try to get as much info out of you as I can right away, and question it along the way. Your artist should constantly, or try to keep in contact with you as much as they can. If you talk to an artist and you start getting some groundwork down, and then they don't talk to you for 3 months with no updates or anything, you might want to question that too. Want to question their I know right now it's a little tricky with where everyone's locked down. We all got stuff going on. It's not as cut and dry as it used to be. But once you get the ball rolling, you should be able to keep in contact with your artists and see what they're doing, how they're doing, and stuff. You don't need to bother them constantly, like every day. Be like, how's it going? Where's my art? Right. But at the same time, there should be communication between you and the client and the artist, constantly about what's happening. I always have a lot of questions for my clients, so and there's another big thing too, and it's a little bit off subject, but a lot of us too now, we stream our art. So if I'm streaming a design, you can just come and watch it. You can come and watch your design, and then you can talk to me in chat, and that's in real time. There's a lot of us artists that are doing that now, and that really does help.
So I'm talking to you, and I say, okay, I want this done. We can go through color scheme, we go through font, we go through theme, we go through feel. This is my stream. This is the kind of personality that I have, and I want this package by X date. Is it fair to me to give you a date of 3 weeks? Is it something that if I say, hey, I want this by the end of June. If we start right now, I want it by the end of June. Is that too much? Is that too little?
No.
So for somebody starting out, and even for somebody who may be getting their first or their second or third package, what's a good time frame to expect? Because me talking to you, I'm just a single person. You might have 4 or 5 other clients that you're working on. And to top that off, if somebody drops into your lab and says, I'm going to spend $10,000 with you right now, and here's what I want, you're probably going to drop the other smaller projects and do that, right?
That's another thing that varies artist to artist. The artist should tell you upfront about how long it's going to be. And if they can expedite it, even for a higher cost. I personally don't like doing that. I don't like expediting at the cost of my other people. If I don't have a lot of projects on my table, I might message my other clients and be like, hey, I got another project I want to kind of try to expedite. Do you mind if I push yours back a week, or something like that? Okay. That's just from the artist. It's not unfair to give an artist a due date, but as long as you're A, reasonable about it, and B, you're very upfront with what you're trying to get. If you come to me and say, hey, I want this complete package and I want it done by Friday because there's a game drop or there's something going on, more than likely I'm going to tell you to go find somebody else, because I'll be like, I'm just too busy right now. I don't have enough. I'm not going to push back all my other clients for you. I have this thing personally where because people will ask that, it's proper etiquette not to throw more money in the artist's face to try to expedite an order. You know what I mean?
Okay.
If you come to me and say, hey, you were going to charge me $100 for this, and I know we were talking 3 weeks, but I want it right now. If I drop you another $100, can you get it done faster? No, because I already have my schedule planned. And it should be up to the artist to be able to tell you that. Say, hey, I have 3 other projects I got to do. It's going to take me 2 weeks. I'm not going to get to yours until this date.
Okay.
That's etiquette. I'm not saying it happens, but it's etiquette of what you should do.
Okay.
So it's just something to keep in mind. If you're a client looking for an artist, I mean, you got to remember what they're trying to do. If they come up front and say, hey, I don't have anything going on right now, I can start on yours right away, then you can set a little bit of a tighter date. But if the client comes to me and says, hey, how long would it take for this? And I tell you, well, it's probably going to be about a month. Then that's what it is. Right. It's almost as bad as trying to haggle the price is trying to haggle the time.
Okay. Okay.
Our time, we plan out our jobs of how long we think they're going to take, and we can't, we don't like stacking clients, meaning having 3 or 4 projects going on at once. We want to like everybody else does, we want to itemize that and make sure that we can get it all.
Okay, I think that's an important concept to talk about. Is that haggling the price and haggling the time? Those two, I've had art done for me. And I always tell the artist, look, I want quality. I will happily trade quality for time, because good art speaks for itself over time, and you can't rush somebody who's good at it. And if you want something in a hurry, you're going to get something that is finished in a hurry, right?
Right, exactly. And we don't like being rushed like anybody else. I mean, we try to set, like, if you're a decent artist, you're a decent designer, you're going to give like a pretty specific amount of time of how long, because I know how long it takes me to do an animation or how long it takes me to do an overlay. Right. I can, as a designer, I can time that out. Most good designers can. We know how long it's going to take. I mean, if things get crazy where what the client wants is a little more excessive, then yeah, it's going to take longer, but it's up to the artist to communicate with that back to the client and say, hey, this might take a little bit longer because you want all of this. It's got to be a good relationship. You have to just have a good relationship with your client and with the client to the artist, and just making sure it stays professional. We often have this like stigma of that, like a client, especially like let's say you have a partnered streamer who has, X amount of subs and they're really popular. They kind of come at us like, well, I'm this person and you're going to work for me, and you're going to take orders from me, when it really doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
And I'm sure that has never happened to you, right?
I've been blessed with the fact that I have worked with larger partnered streamers and have never had an issue with them as far as that. We've heard in the past, we hear every once in a while, we'll hear more about like them trying to haggle the price of things, like, oh, you're charging way too much for what I want, don't you know who I am, kind of thing. But I haven't seen that. I know a lot of my friends have, though, have been through that, which is awful, but you just, and no matter what aspect it is, whether it be price or time or whoever you are or whatever, you should never pressure the artist to do anything and put them under any kind of pressure. I mean, constructive pressure is one thing and crunch is one thing, but I'm talking like you should never make yourself, like, well, you're just the artist, so you're going to do this for me, and that's just the way it is. Because no, we're not going to. we're just gonna not take the job on at all.
Got it. Okay, so the past little bit has been communication, etiquette, things like that. Talk to me about the etiquette of around refunds.
So if a client requests a refund, that is solely put on the artist. If it's up to their judgment to know if the refund is warranted. If I make something for you and you pay me for it, and I take that money and I put it in my PayPal. And then you come back later and you say, oh, well, I found somebody else who's going to do this for like half your price. I want my money back. That doesn't work. Okay. I have in my terms of service, I have that there's no refunds.
Okay.
Because I as a designer have a specific way I do it to where you really can't ask for a refund.
Okay.
I personally, and a lot of people think this is crazy. A lot of my design, I don't know how a lot of designers work. I just know how I work.
Okay.
I don't make people pay until I'm done. Sometimes I'll require a deposit. That's one thing.
Okay.
But the deposit is refundable. Deposit is just like the good faith saying, you're going to pay me and I'm going to work for you. But that's refundable. As far as the complete, basically, if in the end you tell me, you know what, I'm not interested in you, or whatever, then it's going to be up to my discretion whether or not to give you your money back or not. If we make it through the entire process and you pay me, once that money gets into my PayPal account, it's not your money anymore.
Got it. Okay, so I guess what I hear you saying is that it's once you're paid in full, that's it. But it's also important to be clear up front in your contract, saying, hey, I'm the artist. Here's the process. You pay 40% up front, 60% up front. That deposit is either 100% refundable or based upon how much time has passed is a percentage refundable, whatever. But it's always better, I guess, to set your expectations up front with somebody, right?
Yes, you let them know the information up front, and that's depending on the artist themselves, telling this is how my terms of service are. This is my deposit standard. This is my refund standard, and this is pretty much how I work. If you don't like it, you might want to go find somebody else. If I do a package for somebody and let's say it costs $200, I might charge like $50 as a deposit up front just to start the work, and then I will show watermarked. I'll show like watermarked, previews of things so they can see what it looks like. So there's really no question that they're going to come back and say, oh, I didn't like that. I don't like that. I don't want it. So you, as the artist, you got to kind of guard yourself against that. You have to take steps to make sure that you don't run into that.
Got it. Okay. And I think it's important to note what you said there, watermarked examples, because people, and I've seen this happen, and it's a horrible thing, will take the half done, 3/4 done examples that artists show them, and then they will just pull those directly off the screen and use those as the finished product, and then sort of ghost you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then they don't pay you, and then it's a big mess. But then I keep your deposit. So
exactly. Okay. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I've actually experienced that a couple times where somebody actually tried to pull one of mine and then ghost me and then whatever. But I actually used a really subtle watermark, so it didn't really help them. And I actually think that they went and tried to take it to another artist, to like one of their buddies or something, to like trace out and try to get it. And what that does is just causes you a bunch of trouble, because I'm going to call you out on Twitter. I'm going to make sure that no other artists want to work with you. And,
right.
It's just a big mess after that.
Right.
But like I said, it's up to the artist to safeguard themselves against that. It's up to us to be able to protect ourselves. Okay. So, and we do, we'll protect ourselves because we know our time investment. We know what we're about to do and how we're going to do it. So we have to be able to have a set of rules in place for ourselves. And we relay that to the client too about how we do it. I mean, I use we use an invoice system, and I make sure, deposits, like if an artist goes and spends their deposit and then doesn't have the money to give back, well, that's on the artist. That's just bad artist, bad design practice. But it's like I said, it varies artist to artist how they handle it. I can only speak from my own experiences on how I handle it, but it works, and it works for me. I haven't been burned more than a couple of times.
Got it.
So not too bad.
So speaking of being burned and protecting yourself, there's the I guess you call it the never-ending argument conversation around being paid with exposure. Getting the exposure, so the newer artist getting their art seen by enough people, by the right people, to then take the next step of getting paid for their work. And that discussion seems more to me, and I'm not an artist, so this is just my perspective, seems more to me a personal reflection upon the artist of, at some point, you got to draw the line and say, no, my time is worth X, $50 an hour, $100 an hour, $25 an hour, whatever it is. And then you get into the discussion of, you want to work in this industry when working means getting paid for your time. So then you can have better tools. You can do things for yourself with your art. So as somebody who is an artist in the community, and you've obviously grown to the point where now you're doing great. You have consistent work. You can set your terms. You can say yes. You can say no to whatever projects you want. Where does that discussion fall for you?
When I first started out, I started dabbling in design, and I would giving away free art is a great business card. It's a great way to show somebody of what you're capable of. And it is 150% up to the artist to decide where that line is. For myself, I do something very simple. So one of the easiest things for me to do is an overlay, let's say. So if I find somebody that's looking for art, and I'm shopping for a client, not the client shopping for me, but I'm shopping for a client. Like, I find somebody that I enjoy their content, I really want to work with them, because that goes both ways. Clients come to us, but we also go to clients too. There might be somebody that we find in the community that we really like and that we really want to work with, and we will go to them and say, hey, I'm a graphic designer. I noticed you need some stream art. Let me help you. And if you're trying to get that job, maybe you will throw something for free at them. You might say, hey, let me try making you an overlay. I'm not going to charge you. If you want to use it, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. But let me at least show you what I can do. And then I'll make an overlay, because I know an overlay is only going to take me about a half hour. I'll eat that time. I don't care. Maybe I'll do it on my day off, whatever.
Right.
And then you give it to them, and they're like, oh, cool. That's really good. I really like you. Okay, cool. And then it becomes the paid work. When I first started out as a designer, I would give away my art for free or for very cheap. I would do it for money for the Destiny store, like silver and stuff like that. I would just, I'll give me $10 so I can spend it on Destiny. And then once I started getting more and more people saying, hey, I want this, then I had to decide for myself what I was going to charge, how I was going to charge people, how this was all going to work. That is literally up to the artist what they want to charge. Any serious graphic designer is going to know the market and know what we want to do and how we want to do it. And, we're not going to charge $5 for a logo. We're not going to charge $10 for an overlay, like a whole package or whatever. Like, we're realistic ourselves. We know what other artists are charging. We know what kind of everybody's doing. So we're going to be fair to everybody else, because at the same time, from a designer to another designer, you don't want to purposely be cheaper so that your other buddy loses work. Because they're like, well, I'm going to go over to him because he's only charging $10 where you're charging $50. So we kind of keep that relationship too, from designer to designer. But when you first start out, a lot of people do work for free. But it also depends. If you're doing the work for free, but you're actually creating good art, that can blossom into having to get paid for it. If you're doing free work and all you're doing is stealing clip art and then putting it on a banner and then calling it art, I'm not going to call that the same thing.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. So I guess I guess so I guess for me the question is, for you when you were starting out, what was it like the first time that you told somebody, "This is my fee. This is what it will cost you to make this. This is what you will pay me for what you want," and that person said no? What's that like for you?
They said no?
Yeah, they said so you finally decide, I'm gonna start charging for my work.
Yeah.
You finally, boom, I'm done working for free, I'm charging for my work. And you say,
Yeah.
This is my fee, and the person's like, nope,
No.
see ya.
Yep. So that did happen.
Okay.
I started working and I started doing art for people that wanted to pay. And then I got my first rejection where, they would say, what do you charge for this, and this? And I gave them my price and they're like, nope, you're too high. Then I'm just like, for me personally, then I say, well, here's the name of a couple of my other friends that might be interested in the work. And then I might send them their way. I didn't take it to heart. I didn't take it as a negative thing. I mean, some people just can't afford it. They can't afford a couple $100s for an art package right now. They're looking for something quick and easy. I mean, I even offer people, like, there's free art sites out there. There's like Nerd or Die is one of them.
Right.
Streamlabs has them. And I say, well, if you just want free art, why don't you go to Nerd or Die or go to Streamlabs or whatever and use that? I mean, you were talking before about exposure, and yes, I've been offered exposure. I've been offered that before. That's a real thing. It does happen. It's not just a joke. It's a real thing. That's mainly the people who think that they're a little bit bigger than they are. People that say, well, I got 10,000 subs on YouTube. You should work for me and I'll make sure to give you credit for it. It's not the same. I make the joke. I always say that exposure doesn't buy me Taco Bell. That's what I always say to people.
That's nice.
Which is true.
I like that. That's good.
Yep. So people try, and I mean, an artist is not going to take it if they're a commissioned artist where the people are paying them. They're not going to take that. They're not going to go for exposure. They're not going to whatever. Even if it is big streamer. I mean, we were talking once. We had a discussion where it's just in the daydreaming mode. But they said, like, well, what would happen if somebody like Ninja or Dr. Lupo came to you and said, "Hey, I want artwork and I'll pay you an exposure." It's a really tough call because that's on a very, very, very high scale. But at the same time, I would probably personally say no, because the streamer who's asking me that, even if they're a big streamer, should know better than to ask for that kind of thing just for exposure. And if it was a big streamer that thought that highly of themselves to say, "Hey, I'm going to pay you with exposure," I for sure would say no to it, because it's not worth it to me. If Dr. Lupo says, "Hey, I didn't pay for this, but this guy gave me all my artwork, isn't it neat?" The odds of me getting some serious clients out of that are still going to be slim to none. It's not really all that beneficial to me.
Right, and I think there's definitely a threshold with people like Ninja, Dr. Disrespect, Dr. Lupo, Tim the Tat Man, where they have enough respect for people in the community and the people that they choose to reach out to. Like, look, I would not ask for this stuff for free. I know your time is just as valuable as my time. I'm going to pay you for this. And that's a definite threshold between the people who are decent size and people who are upper high end, is that they have a general respect for the people who work for them, whether it's on a consistent basis editing their videos or working on their social media, or the people that they work through contracts with, like you. "Hey, I'm going to pay you, $5,000. I want a full rebrand of X, Y, and Z." You're like, "Okay, bang, got you, no problem." And you do that. And I think that's whether or not you're a higher end artist, someone in the middle, or starting out, just the fact that someone says, "Look, I'm not going to waste your time by asking for stuff for free. I'm going to actually give you money. Now, I may only have $75. Okay, how much does $75 get me?" And you might say this. Okay, fine. That's what I get for $75, right?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I had a partner and streamer a little while ago. He was posting on Twitter that he was looking for some overlays. And that night I happened to be I wasn't working that night. I wasn't doing art that night. And I just put my name in the hat. And I was just like, I'm like, I can do these if you want or whatever. But I was also up against a bunch of other artists that were also putting their name in. And he came around and he messaged all of us and said, "I need it kind of fast what do you charge? What can you do? And I said, well, I have the night off tonight. I wasn't going to work, but I charge $50 an overlay. How can I help you? And he was like, well, I need 9 overlays. And I said, okay. And I said, if I get them started right now, I can probably deliver tonight. And he was like, perfect. And he gave me the job. So now what's funny was he's a partner streamer. Now that's a big thing, because just because he was a partner streamer and he's a popular partner streamer, I didn't move my price up because of that, being like, well, this guy's got money, so I'm going to charge $75 or $100 per overlay and try to milk this out of money. No, $50 is my overlay price, and that's what I was going to pay. That's what he was going to pay me. So I did it, and then I asked him if he wanted me to stream it so he can come and watch, and he did. And he came and watched my stream, and I streamed, and I did the whole thing in one night, as I said I was going to. I kept my promise, because as a designer, you need to do that as well. Keep your promises.
Yep.
And I did the designs. He loved them. He offered me the input I needed in stream, which was great. I delivered them. He paid me, and it was done and over with. So that was a great thing. It's a great experience when we have those kind of experiences. Like I said, it still varies designer to designer how they want to treat those things. Most people who deal with us know the game. They know what we do.
Right.
If you're a professional streamer that's had to deal with designers before, you know how to talk to us. You know how to deal with us and what we expect, what's expected of you, kind of thing. And they do. I mean, some of the bigger designers that are out there that have dealt with these big guys, like Captain Twaz and Young Khan, and these guys, and Rotting Jackal. These are designers that are very well versed in these things and dealing with high-end clients.
Right.
But everyone's treated with respect, and the designer is, the client is, and it goes really well. If a kid comes to somebody like Captain Twaz and says, hey, I want your artwork, and Captain Twaz is like, well, this is what I charge, it's going to probably, Captain Twaz is a very high-end artist. The man is an amazing artist, and he charges what he deserves to get paid. And the kid comes to him and says, well, you charge way too much money. You're stupid. I don't want to deal with you, whatever. It's just, you can't have that kind of immature, conversation with an artist or with a client. You can't be that way. It just doesn't work. It's not, even though we just we do graphics for gaming and stuff like that and streaming, you still have to treat us like professionals, just like we'll treat you like an actual client, not just a gamer.
Right. And I think that's, I was just kind of pondering back on this entire conversation, and the underlying themes are really are integrity and respect. Integrity, keep your word both ways, client and artist, and make sure when it comes to respect client and respect the artist's time, artist, and make sure that you have enough respect for the client to say, hey, I don't have time for this right now, or you know what, I cannot do it in the time frame you want. Here's somebody else who might. And I think that's really lost these days on Twitter, on Snapchat, on a lot of these other sites where people just sit behind their keyboard and say stuff, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. If an artist doesn't give you options, whether it be other designers or other things or other, whatever, that's usually the sign too of an insecure artist or whatever. Most clients know exactly what they want. They will go, I like this guy's art. I've done my homework. I really want it, and I'll save up to get it. And they'll just come to us, and that's just the way it is. If somebody comes to me and says, I want this, this, and this, and I say, okay, it's going to take this long, it's going to cost you this much, and they're like, all right, cool, we're good to go. Or they'll say, you know what, that's a little bit on the high end. I don't think I can afford that right now. Then exactly what you said before. I'm like, well, what is your budget? Is your budget like $100, or is it $50, or is it whatever? Because I can still do something just to kind of get the ball rolling. We can get the colors down, we can get a logo down, we can get whatever out of the way first, and then work from there. So it really depends on how we get approached. I have this joke that I always say that if you don't say hello to me when you first contact me, I'll do an extra $10 top. And that's a joke, and whether or not I do that is up to that's my business, and I'll never tell.
Right.
But the thing is if you just come up to me and you say, hey, how much is your logos? To me, that's rude. Okay. So, if you don't say, hey, what's up? I like your art, just at least start a conversation with us.
Right.
Anything, any one of us artists, any artist or designer out there, they don't want to just get a message at 7:00 in the morning that says, "Hey, how much is a logo? I need a logo. When can you do a logo?" We don't want to hear that. We want to hear a little bit of, this is where I found you. This is, what I like. Can you do this for me? Do you have time for this? And actually get into a conversation about it. Because if somebody just comes to me and says, "Hey, I want a logo," I'm just like, "That's nice. You want one for me? Oh, okay." And
That's good. That's good stuff. This has been a really enlightening conversation. So, Jason, I thank you very, very much for making time for me today. I know you're a busy guy, so if people want to find you, whether it's on Twitter or anywhere else, where can they find you?
Everywhere. SaltyCatPlays is my Twitch, my Twitter. I do stream design, and I do gaming on Twitch. I do. If you need to find me on Twitter, it's the same, SaltyCatPlays. You can DM me there if you ever want anything. It is a busy time right now. We're all busy. All designers are busy. I also run a pretty large art collective called DestinyCom Art, and that's at DestinyCom Art on Twitter. And there's a lot of designers and artists there. So if anybody's looking for something specific, especially in the Destiny world, you can contact us there. If you're looking for an artist for a portrait or a designer or whatever, we all kind of hang out there. We all see those. So you can find us. But me personally, like I said, if you need to get a hold of me for anything, you want to inquire about my work, just get a hold of me there. Perfect. Or come drop me you don't have to give me a follow. I don't even care. It's not about follows. To me, it's just about meeting a bunch of people and, doing art for people and seeing my art all over everybody's timelines. So
perfect. I'll make sure to have all those links I'm in the description below. Jason, thank you very, very much for making time for me today. I know that you're a busy guy, so have a good day, sir.
You too, man.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in today. You can find links to everyone on the show in the description below. Check out Bill the Conqueror on Twitch and Twitter to stay up to date on his thoughts and ideas about gaming culture.